Welcome to Privacy Trainer. In this explainer, we're focusing on a part of the GDPR that is honestly incredibly easy to overlook. We're talking about Article 94. Now, at first glance, this looks like a purely administrative housekeeping provision. I mean, it's just two short paragraphs about repealing an old law. But definitely don't let its brevity fool you. This seemingly administrative article actually controls the legal fate of literally decades of legacy data. It's essentially the invisible engine that upgrades older legal frameworks across the entire European Union right into the modern era.
Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine the absolute chaos that would happen without a bridge between the old 1995 Data Protection Directive and the modern GDPR. Think about it. You've got thousands of databases, millions of user consents, and hundreds of national laws that were entirely built around a legal text that suddenly, on a very specific day in 2018, just ceased to exist. Without a transition plan, organizations would be totally in the dark, wondering if they had to delete absolutely everything and start from scratch. National governments would be scrambling to rewrite their legal codes, while Article 94 exists specifically to solve this massive problem.
To really understand how it works, we need to look at the timeline. The European privacy landscape is basically divided into two distinct eras. You have the original era, which began way back in October 1995 with the enactment of Directive 95/46/EC. Now, this was the law of the land when the internet was still in its infancy. Then you have the modern era. May 25, 2018 is the absolute hard cutoff. That's the day GDPR enforcement officially began. Article 94 is the exact mechanism that sits right on that date, officially acting as the legal bridge transitioning the entire European privacy framework from the past right into the present. So let's look at the actual text of Article 94, Section 1. It states plainly, Directive 95/46/EC is repealed with effect from 25 May 2018. In plain English, lawmakers included this to ensure there was absolutely no confusion about which law ruled the land. The old directive is dead. You simply cannot rely on its interpretations, its looser definitions, or its outdated mechanisms after this date. If you're processing the personal data of individuals in the EU today, the GDPR is your master framework, period. And this brilliantly illustrates the second part of the article. Section 2 says, references to the repealed directive shall be construed as references to this regulation. Now, I like to call this the universal translator concept. Think about the hundreds of other laws, like the e-privacy directive or various national member state laws, that pointed directly to the 1995 directive for their definitions. Instead of forcing European lawmakers to manually hunt down and rewrite every single one of those interconnected laws, Article 94 acts as a universal translator. It automatically upgrades all those old references to GDPR standards. Plus, it explicitly transitions the old Working Party 29, which was the group of regulators under the 1995 law, into the modern European Data Protection Board, or EDPB. Now, to really apply Article 94 practically, you have to read it alongside Recital 171. This recital deals with the big question: what happens to all the data you collected before May 2018? It states that processing already underway must be brought into conformity with the GDPR. But crucially, it says you don't need to get consent from a user again if the manner in which the original consent was given is already in line with the much stricter conditions of the GDPR. So it essentially grandfathered in old, valid consent. But, and this is a big but, only if it could pass the modern test of being freely given, specific, informed, and an unambiguous affirmative action. Let's look at how this impacts everyday business across three real-world scenarios. First, take a massive tech company operating in Europe. Because of Article 94, the older e-privacy directive, which governs cookies, now relies on the GDPR's definition of consent. So that tech company literally had to completely overhaul its cookie banners to meet modern standards. Second scenario, a small business. Say they have a physical paper mailing list from a store event back in 2015. Well, they have to evaluate those physical signatures to see if they genuinely meet the GDPR's high bar for consent today. And third, a classic compliance failure, a company just assuming that an old opt-out checkbox from 2014 is still perfectly valid today. As you'll see in a minute, that is a highly dangerous assumption. Which brings us to some of the most common mistakes organizations make regarding this transition. The absolute biggest misunderstanding is assuming all legacy consent is just automatically grandfathered in. It's really not. Passively assuming your old data is safe is a massive compliance risk. Another huge mistake is ignoring how older sector-specific laws, like national telecommunications laws, now rely on GDPR definitions because of that universal translator effect we talked about. And finally, failing to document your analysis. If you decided to keep a pre-2018 database, you need documented proof showing exactly how that old data collection meets modern, strict standards. And let me tell you, during investigations, regulators take a very strict view on this. They focus heavily on Article 94 when scrutinizing legacy data or cookie banners. A landmark example is case C673/17, widely known as the Planet 49 case. In this ruling, the European Court of Justice used Article 94 to definitively tie the older e-privacy directive directly to the GDPR's strict definition of consent. The court made it crystal clear, because of Article 94, there's no way you can use outdated interpretations of consent when dealing with modern cookie placements. The standard has been upgraded across the board. Let's put you in the hot seat for a second with a mini case study. Step 1, your business challenge. Let's say your marketing team wants to launch a massive campaign using a legacy database compiled back in 2015. Step 2, the privacy issue. You dig into the old records and you find that the original consent was gathered using pre-ticked opt-out boxes. Basically, the user had to actively uncheck a box to not be added to the list. Step 3, the GDPR question. Does Article 94, combined with Recital 171, actually allow your organization to keep using this data today? So, the crucial point here is the analysis of that consent mechanism. Under the old 1995 rules, some jurisdictions might have tolerated an opt-out approach. But the GDPR, it requires an unambiguous affirmative action. A pre-ticked box is literally the exact opposite of that. Therefore, that legacy consent totally fails the test laid out in Recital 17.1. The conclusion? That 2015 database cannot be used under its original premise. The organization has two choices. They must either run a re-permissioning campaign, asking users to actively opt in using modern standards, or they have to delete the data entirely. Okay, time for a quick certification-style knowledge check to test our practical understanding. Question 1. A company collected consent in 2014 using a pre-ticked box. Under Article 94 and Recital 171, is this consent still valid today? Is it A, yes, it's grandfathered in, B, no, pre-ticked boxes do not meet GDPR standards, C, yes, if they later emailed the user, or D, only for non-sensitive data? Take a second and think about that Planet 49 case we just talked about. The correct answer is B, no. As we just discussed, the European Court of Justice in the Planet 49 case explicitly confirmed that pre-ticked boxes simply do not constitute valid consent under the GDPR. Because the original method doesn't meet the new, stricter standards, it completely fails the grandfathering test in Recital 171. The transition is strict, folks, and old habits do not survive it. Moving right along to question 2, a national member state law from 2010 directly references the old Directive 95/46/EC. Does that national law need to be completely rewritten to apply to the GDPR? A, yes, immediately. B, no. Article 94 acts as a universal translator. C, yes, within a 2-year grace period. Or D, only if it involves criminal justice data. And the answer is B, no. This perfectly tests our grasp of that universal translator concept. Article 94, paragraph 2 clearly dictates that references to the repealed directive shall be construed as references to the GDPR. This elegant little legal mechanism saved European lawmakers an absolutely immeasurable amount of time, preventing them from having to systematically hunt down and rewrite thousands of interconnected laws across the entire continent. Okay, question 3, which brings in real-world regulatory application from our sources. The e-privacy directive relies on the definition of consent from the old 1995 directive. According to EDBB Guidelines 2020-05, how is this handled post-2018? A, it continues to use the old 1995 definition. B, the e-privacy directive is repealed. C, it relies on the GDPR's definition via Article 94. Or D, consent is no longer required for cookies. Yep, the correct answer is C. It relies on the GDPR's definition. The EDPB guidelines specifically state that because of Article 94, the conditions for obtaining valid consent under e-privacy are automatically upgraded to match the GDPR. Now, it is worth noting that Article 95 of the GDPR ensures no additional obligations are created beyond the objective of the e-privacy directive itself, but the foundational standard of what actually constitutes consent is absolutely and universally upgraded. All right, our final question, question 4, focusing on the administrative shift. Under Article 94, what happens to the Working Party on the Protection of Individuals established by the old 1995 directive? A, it is permanently disbanded. B, it translates into the European Data Protection Board, or EDPB. C, it merges directly with the European Commission. Or D, it remains unchanged.
And the answer is B. It translates right into the European Data Protection Board. Article 94 explicitly states that references to the old Working Party 29 should now be read as references to the EDPB, ensuring a completely smooth transition of regulatory guidance and authority. Great job if you got all of those right. That wraps up our knowledge check. So let's wrap this all up and summarize the core lessons here. First, the 1995 directive is officially dead. You absolutely cannot rely on it for processing data today. Second, Article 94 is incredibly powerful because it acts as a legal universal translator, updating older frameworks automatically. Third, any legacy consent you currently hold is only valid if it meets the strict affirmative standards of the GDPR. Fourth, cross-referenced laws, most notably the e-privacy directive concerning cookies, automatically inherited these upgraded definitions. And finally, the administrative body known as the Working Party smoothly transitioned into today's EDPB.
If you enjoy these GDPR explainers and would like to support the channel, consider becoming a member of Privacy Trainer. Memberships help us continue creating free privacy, security, AI, and compliance education for learners around the world. Our mission is to make high-quality privacy knowledge accessible to everyone and use AI to scale education to everyone.
If you're looking for more structured privacy, security, or AI training, including guided learning paths, workshops, practice questions, exam and certification preparation resources, you can also explore privacyuni.com. Privacy Trainer focuses on making knowledge freely available on YouTube, while privacyuni.com is designed for learners who prefer a more structured learning experience.
Disclaimer: this content is provided for educational purposes only and does not constitute as legal advice. Content might include mistakes. I want to leave you with one final thought today. When dealing with data, the past is honestly never truly in the past. If you don't fully understand the legal bridge of Article 94, how can you be sure the foundation of your legacy data isn't secretly crumbling right beneath you? Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.